Well, I guess we're gonna sit
We're
in
out
this
there.
one.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm gonna pull you down real quick. Right. Hey, everybody. Webc here, and we are going to start the show early, I guess, because I hit the button on accident. So let's go ahead and let's get over here and watch our intro, and we'll be right back.
I would like to introduce. Wiser.
All right, everybody. It is Webc Live, and we are hanging out tonight in the studio with our new friend, LeviathanPrime. Hi, son.
How's it going?
Oh, okay. I'm going live. I gotta go shut this TV off real quick.
Gotcha.
All right, and we are back, and we're gonna do this interview with Leviathan. And we're just hanging out here at the studio. How are you today? Introduce yourself to everybody here on YouTube and tell us where we can find you on social media.
Well, I'm on social media here. I'm mostly known for my work on TikTok. I also have an Instagram, which doesn't get a big following, and a YouTube that's been there for years, but it was mostly a gaming channel. I do have full length videos of most of my Gundam builds on there as well. So if you ever want to see things like how did I make that Cassatria, or how did I do, some of the work on the resin builds that I've got, stuff that's just really time intensive tends to end up on YouTube. The stuff that's just quick little build videos, it might end up as a short at best, but it's Leviathan Prime across all platforms. I do have a Twitch that I haven't put anything out on yet, so we might see that happen if anything happens with TikTok in the near future.
Sweet. So we're gonna just jump right into these questions so we can get them out of the way, and then we can have free talk. How did you get into the modeling world? What was your catalyst into doing what you do?
So I had built a handful of models when I was a small child. I had built just a couple when I was in high school. I built like a little Macross model and I think one or two other ones. I tried my hand at brush painting enamels, and that didn't go over too well. But it was satisfying for me. I was happy with what I made.
Yeah.
And I didn't build anything else for close to 20 years until D'Agostini announced that they were going to be putting out a very large scale Millennium Falcon models, like 1/43rd. It ended up being almost like 3 feet long. And I saw that and I was like, man, I need to be able to I need to do this. I'm in a financial situation right now where it's like I can afford to do it. I want to get this model, but I don't want to just push it together. I was like, I feel like I need to fully paint this. I need to learn weathering, and I'm going to need to learn a lot more about plastic model building that I had ever learned before. So with the months leading up to that product's release, I literally went out and just bought some plastic model kits of the Millennium Falcon, bought an airbrush, a compressor, and just absorbed as many forums and YouTube video tutorials as I could on how to do that kind of stuff, and just self-taught myself for a couple of months. And it kind of, I did a few practice runs, doing heavy weathering and, chip learning how to do chipped painting and stuff like that. And when I was satisfied with where I was, that's when I tackled the Millennium Falcon, and that was the first real project I took seriously.
Nice. Millennium Falcon seems like a large challenge. Now, did that have like an inside to the model as well that could open up?
It had a few interior spaces. Like I focused, it had the option where like you can pop open the top and you can see like the inside cabin, like where you see where like Luke's learning to use the lightsaber for the first time, where they're playing on the little the Jark table and whatnot. In that cabin, there's a few corridors. There's like the spaces inside the gun turrets, and there's the cockpit.
Okay.
And I focused my build. I ended up painting it all, but I focused my build on just what you can see from the outside with it closed. But that meant that you can fully see the cockpit and you can see the inside of the gun wells. So I spent a lot of time on those.
Sweet. All right. Do you have like, you're really accomplished. So do you have goals still? What are your current evolving situation with goals as such an accomplished builder as yourself?
Nordic, I'll say this, Nordic from Berserker Mechs in particular loves to push me to try new things and do things differently than what I've done in the past. Okay. In pursuit of that Millennium Falcon project, I learned how to do my own LED work. I learned how to do weathering. I learned how to do painting. I've stepped away from some of the methods that I use on that project. So if I were to go back and redo it now, obviously years later, I'd be doing it differently. But I was very satisfied with what I did. I've learned a lot about scratch building. I've learned, how to work with resin products, paint interactions, all these different things that people kind of take for granted or just don't understand what happened when something goes wrong on their project sometimes. And that's an experience thing.
Right.
As far as what I'm trying to push myself to do currently, we actually just started a challenge this month for doing a custom Verka. And I went I'm sure some people are going to think is the easy way out. I went and got the Verka ball, which is, I believe, the smallest and simplest Verka that there is. But I'm going to be doing a lot to it. So I'm going to be taking everything else that I've learned. So things like LEDs, panel lining, scribing, custom part fabrication. I'm going to be doing all that, and I'm going to be throwing something else in there that I haven't really shown off before. So you can expect to see something different from me in a couple of months when that project's done.
Yeah. I was always curious. Just quick shout out to Bit Hexfires Custom. They're in the chat room right now hanging out with us, and somebody else is in the chat room. Go ahead, say hi. We are live. You can talk to us. Chat box is in the window with us. We'll answer your questions live as we go along. So we'll do a few of my questions and a few of the live's questions if they're asking. Let's see. I already know that question. Like, this is for, I got a couple questions for some of the younger builders and stuff. So I already know you're a custom builder and go way beyond custom. And the same with the competition question. I'm sure you're just talked about competition, like, so we're going. All right. Okay. Do you have a favorite non-mecha anime to share with everyone?
Well, I'm going to throw one out there, and you can tell me yes or no, and we'll go from there. My absolute favorite, what I would technically consider a non-mecha, is going to be Ghost in the Shell, by far. Now, I say that, and I'm like, there's obviously mechs in that show. They're not the focus of the show, but they're definitely there. So you got things like the Tachikomas and like these fully armored like battle suits and stuff like that, and walking bipedal tanks. There's all kinds of mechs in that show, but it's definitely not the focus of the show.
I'll let it slide because it's not the focus.
Okay, but fair enough.
Because they are in there, and there is a couple cool mech battles that she tears that mech up, though. That's all I can say. She tears that mech up. So yeah. I watched Ghost in the Shell a lot before I had kids and stuff. So I haven't seen any of the new stuff if there's new material out, but I've definitely seen the older stuff.
My big one that I always try to push people towards is watch the original movies.
Right.
There's 3 movies that I'm not going to count some of the other stuff that came later. But I'm just going to say 3 original movies that came out around the same time period, and then there's the standalone complex. And I think the standalone complex is like the best serialized anime that we've ever had. I don't think it gets nearly enough appreciation. It's got some very deep subjects in there, but I think it's amazingly well done.
Okay, that's great to look out for. Ryan Sama says, "Hey yo." How's it going, Ryan Sama? Which Gundam series do you relate to the most? Like IBO, Wing, G Fighter, Universal Century,
I'm going to go more for what I'm going to consider like gritty, realistic Gundam series. So things like Thunderbolt, um, Eighth MS Team, Iron Blooded Orphans. I think there's some great concepts in there where like you basically just kind of surrender part of yourself for more power in your machine. I think that's a great idea. Um, I think that the big thing with Thunderbolt is they just try to show that war is hell and everybody's suffering in their own ways, and there's a lot of sacrifices being made that not everyone's aware of. So yeah,
To the tune of some crazy jazz music.
definitely some awesome music.
Yep. Thunderbolt is good. I've been watching a lot of clips from Thunderbolt lately. I still can't find a full version of it.
You have to sail the high seas if you want to watch Thunderbolt, or I believe also the same with 8th MS Team right now. I think you can't find it anywhere legitimately.
Okay. So those, once again, another series that I've been wanting to go back and watch, like 0079 and 8th, and there's another one that goes with those, War in the Pocket or something like that. Those
Yeah,
all go together.
War in the Pocket is very good.
Yep.
Definitely one of my favorites.
My main relation is to IBO. I say that almost every interview is I relate the most to IBO, which is funny because I don't have a whole lot of IBO kits. I do have like that Bile, and I do have a master grade Barbatos, but I don't really have a lot of IBO kits. So that's always something. Do you watch the internet or the feeds for new Gunpla coming out, new mech models coming out? Are you like one of those people who's always driving to find the newest thing, or are you just happy to see what comes out?
I'm always glad when more stuff comes out because it just shows that there's still a thriving market for the hobby there. Personally, I'm very picky with the mechs that I like. I'm very much a fan of the Xeon designs for the most part. There's a few Gundams that I like the design of, but I'm not loyal to any particular series when it comes to the models. I'm not loyal to any faction when it comes to the models. It's just what designs I like and what I would like to build and modify. That's really all I go for.
That's cool.
I mostly build in master grade, which means I'm very disappointed a lot of times. I mean, I have no problems doing something like taking an RE100 or what's the other one? I've got like four
Full
of them.
mechanic.
Yeah, full mechanics. I have no problem taking any of the other 1/100 scale models and modifying them to put them on par with like the master grades. I just wish they would put some more out and there'd be some variety to them. I know I'm probably one of the 9 billion people who say this, but I really get tired of seeing like the same 3 kits remade over and over again. I understand that they have their grandpa love. That's fine. I just wish they would do something else. Like give us some of those suits that haven't gotten a master grade yet. Just saying.
I agree with that. I like the full mechanics line. Every one that I've built so far, I've been really satisfied with after the build.
I've heard so many people say they're just larger high grades, and I disagree. I think there's a lot more to them. Like
There's much more work.
There's definitely more work you can do, but I'll be honest. Like I took like the Barbatos Lupus, and I think that out of the box, that's a great kit. There's nothing wrong with it. I did a few small modifications to it, painted it up, and I think it looks great. I don't understand the hate for that line.
If I'm understanding, the frame for them are all pretty much similar, aren't they? Like it's just the shells that look different.
Not really. I mean, you could maybe say that about the full mechanics for the IBO series because most of them have the same inner frame when you get down to it.
Yeah.
I can't really. I don't feel that. See, I'm looking at things like the Calamity. What else have I got sitting in here that's full mechanics right now? I don't know. I don't think there's too many similarities between the IBO full mechanics and some of the other full mechanics line.
Okay.
Not internally, anyway.
Right. So you've mentioned all these sweet builds that you've done. Do you have a specific one that stands out above the rest to yourself that you beam with pride when you show it to people? Do you have one of those yet?
I mean, I really love my Kshatriya. I also really love the custom Sananji that I did last year. The Gyaradoga is my most recent one that I've always loved that design, and getting to sit there and add detail to it, and then weather the shit out of it and just make it look used. I really loved that build.
Okay. So those are great answers. Like like you just continue naming off better kits
Sorry.
and better builds
Like,
and stuff.
give me one. I'm like, here's
Awesome.
three. Yeah, I got
I've
it.
watched a lot of your material and stuff before we've come into contact. I was just, one of those quiet fans in the background for quite a long
Appreciate it.
time before I started becoming public. And so your stuff is definitely, it stood out to me along with Ray Studio I found Ray Studio before I found you. And
Mhm.
he's got some really good custom work too, but he doesn't do lighting like you do. You do a lot of good custom lighting, and that's how I found you, because I was looking up for custom lighting with Gunpla. You're it, dude. You're the guy. Like, I just want you to know, like, there's companies that are building the lights and stuff, but you're the guy. Whenever somebody searches, they end up to your websites or your socials, and you're pretty awesome for that.
I appreciate that, but I think I would probably be considered somebody who's doing Gunpla LED lighting the wrong way. I try to make it as difficult as possible. I look at so many of these absolutely beautiful Cosmos kits that are coming out now, and I'm just like, those are top notch, out of the box, ready to install lighting kits. I'm sitting here like, all right, let me run 10 more LEDs into this one leg joint, just because I want to make it glow the right way. And, I torture myself with my lighting, but I appreciate that people enjoy that and watching me suffer. And I don't mind giving them help with simple things, but I don't wish most of the LED projects that I do on anybody, just for the record.
No, I've done one so far. I have enough gear to still do like 2 or 3 more kits, and yeah, I'm I'm approaching that slowly. I haven't decided what kit I really want to do, but I have a Cassatria on hand that I might do lighting with, because it's just a big kit. The lighting could fit easier in a bigger kit.
It's a big kit. The challenge you're going to run into is if you decide to light the thrusters that are in the binders, which was the biggest challenge that I had when I did the 1/100 Cassatria, was getting the LEDs hidden. And that's another big part of my builds. I prefer to do my lighting all power supply, switch, and all the wires completely hidden internally. And that's something that almost nobody does. And I appreciate that. A lot of people are just like, I just want to have something come out. I want to have this model set on an action base, and I'm just going to have the power supply and the switch and the action base. That's great and all, but I don't like to put my kits on action bases most of the time. So I make that a little bit more complicated than it probably needs to be, just for my own ego.
Yeah, that is something that I wish I would have known better about, is the wiring section of it and everything. Because when I did my first one, that was the result. I had a big shaft of wires coming down right next to the base and everything, and leading up and away. So no, I totally get what you're saying. It looks a lot nicer to have the battery power and everything where you put it in the backpacks and stuff like that, or in the tanks. I could also see hiding batteries and stuff inside the big long tanks and stuff on some.
Now,
So,
fortunately, and I've showed this before on some of my tutorial videos. Bandai has, on a lot of their master grade kits lately, been putting cavities in the torso for those lighting pucks. And while I am not a fan of the lighting pucks themselves, because they tend to flicker and they're not, I don't feel like they're really high quality. I feel like Bandai just kind of went to the cheapest manufacturer in China or something and said, hey, can you make us a bunch of these little pucks? You can use that space to put in your own battery and your own switches, and then just run them up and use the light piping that's already present in the Gunpla. So like when I did the Gyaradoga recently, the LED that you're seeing in the head is actually sitting at the base of the neck, and it's just using light piping to get that out through the eye unit.
that's really nice. A lot of high grades kind of don't do that yet. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
I
high
understand.
grades,
It's
you
not
know. So,
incredibly complicated to run the LED just that much further, but if they've already
yeah.
got the piping set up for you, it actually works very well. But as I've shown in things like the Sinanju, sometimes I put the LED exactly where the head where the optics are supposed to be, and just run the wire down through the neck and into the chest. So that's an option too.
Yeah, yeah. I also have these guys.
Oh,
They,
you have the conductive.
wireless. Yeah,
What
they're
about induction coil LEDs?
yeah, they're kind of cool. I like them because I can put them on a kit and then take them off that kit right away and put them on another kit.
Right.
So they're really fast like that because you just drill one hole. Drill inside the inner. It's so easy to use them. I like them for that reason.
They're very easy to use. But I have to say, and I've pointed this out in a tutorial video related to this again. When you have the coil, it's usually people usually mount it on the bottom. The way that an induction coil works is you ideally want it to be like on the same plane. You want them facing the same direction as the coil. And what people end up doing is they put the LEDs like in the eye or something, and it's pointed literally 90 degrees off axis, and it'll get some power that way, but it would get more if you had it like behind it, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. Then they're on the same plane, and it's getting full reception on that, because you'll have some colors that won't even come on, and it's just because of the angle that you have them turned. So
you're
if
right.
that helps,
100% right.
if you're struggling to get an LED like that to light, just rotate the coil and see if you have better luck. Usually fixes it.
The coil I have came with two coils. One is a wireless coil that acts as an extension to the first coil. So I can put one coil like this and one coil like this, and then anything inside this area here gets hit by the draw from the second coil.
Awesome.
So that's kind of how I fixed that, and it works for most things. I haven't had any issues. But you are right about the way the lights sit. If they don't sit a certain way to catch the electricity, they can do that. Hey, Mr. Claire's Rock came in, and Ryan Sama, he loves the giant bell pepper from Unicorn.
Yeah,
is that a joke I'm missing? The giant bell pepper from
That's a Ksatria reference. That's what everyone calls it, the bell pepper.
Oh, the bell pepper. I got you. That's what I call Barbatos Gundam Goku.
I can see that, sure.
His fight with Hashmail made me I was like, dude, that's Goku. They're like totally using Goku for that fight. I was like, that was cool. Let's see, your favorite non-mecha model. Anything non-mecha
that I've built, or just in general?
Just in general, or that you built, or I'm not really picky.
Okay. Take a peek here real quick. Let's see what we got sitting down here that I haven't built out yet. I'm gonna go with this one. 1 sec. Be right back.
I'll be right here.
Okay. I'm not going far.
Awesome.
So if you're somebody who grew up in an arcade once upon a time, this was the R9 from the R-Type series.
That's really cool.
That's one of my favorite builds. It was I went and made it complicated, of course.
Spaceship.
But let's see here.
My brain said spaceship.
Yeah, I used to do Starship models before I got into Gunpla. Like I was saying earlier, I got started on Star Wars first.
Yeah, I have dabbled in some of the Star Wars miniatures. I have not gotten into any of the larger builds yet. I do have admiration for those kits. They're really nice. They look good. Even their little ones, the miniatures are really cool too. I showed off the X-Wing I built a couple days ago while I was live. It's just a little tiny guy, fits in the palm of your hand. And
so that was like one of the tabletop miniatures, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I believe it's a 1/152 or 1/152 or 1/144 or something like that.
Yeah. I took this to IPMS, and
that's cool.
I ended up winning with it, but they weren't the biggest fan of this ship. They had complaints about it, but I was like, whatever. It's it is what it is.
I like it. It's got really nice detail on there. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I like that.
It's not a great color separated kit, but I made it work.
Do you have a Holy Grail kit that you're afraid to buy because it's too Is there something, or is it? Do you have it on hand already, and you're just not ready to build
I
it
mean,
yet?
so to be completely honest, the Cassatria, the 1/100 scale Cassatria, was my holy grail, and I
Okay.
got it fairly early on after I started building Gunpla. I think I got it about a year and a half after I got into this hobby in particular. And I bought it, and I was like, all right, there's a lot of things that I want to do this. It's going to take me a while to get it done. It's going to be a ton of effort. Nobody really knew who I was until I started showing that Cassatria off. And then people were like, what the hell is this? And who is this person? And that's honestly how I became known in this community, was because of the Cassatria. If I had to say now, if there's like a Holy Grail kit out there that I really want, there's a 1/100 scale Gerbera Tetra out there that I think is absolutely gorgeous. I believe it's only available as a resin kit, but and it's a few $100. But at some point, I'd love to get my hands on one.
Interesting kid. You guys got any questions out there in the real world? I know there's at least 3 people watching. There might be a few stalkers in the back room, but if you guys got any questions, throw a question out real quick while we get through this next one here. What would you tell people that are new to the hobby to keep them from burning out in the hobby too fast?
Don't ever feel like building a Gundam is a job. Don't feel like it's work. Don't take on commission stuff if you're still trying to get comfortable with the building process, or you feel like you have to do it. At that point, it becomes a chore. I'm not saying throw build. I'm not saying walk away from your build and just stop working on it as soon as you feel burnout. But work at a pace that you're comfortable with. Work on things that you find enjoyable. And just keep in mind that it's a procedure, it's a process. You're trying to get to that point where you can finish up a model and take a step back and look at it and say, hey, look what I built. And you have to have a certain degree of drive to want to do that. There's nothing wrong with getting tired of working on something and taking some time to yourself, but it's only, I would say it's only disappointing if you put a box down and you just don't want to look at it anymore. That's understandable. Maybe you find something else that you want to build in the meantime, and you want to come back to it later. But I would encourage people not to quit. Just, finish through on the model. If you need to take a break, take a break. If you need to work on something else, work on something else. But try to remember why you started that project to begin with. It's because, you wanted to show this to somebody. You wanted to prove to yourself that you could do it. Or, sometimes in my case where it's like you're building it as a gift for somebody else, it's not even always for you. So think about what got you started on that build, and think about what you're going to get out of the end of it when you can look at it and say, yes, I did this. I think that's usually a good motivator.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Nobody's got any questions. All right, guys. There's a couple of them out there.
All right.
So I mentioned this to a couple people so far, but I've got a couple ideas for some new style competitions. How would you feel about being like a team captain to like 4 other builders and setting up like a team round robin competition style build off, where you and your team, each member builds their own kit still, but you all have to build like along with a color process. Like, so everybody's colorway has to match on the team and your flag has to match, or whatever you put as your like
I think if you could find a way to make that feel natural, and like a reason for that competition, it would make a little more sense. I do have to say that while it sounds like a great idea to be the team captain, like, yeah, you get to pick the people who you're going to be building alongside. At the same time, like, there's so many people in this community that I feel are just like absolutely fantastic builders who don't give themselves enough credit, and would be absolutely crushed if they weren't like first or second, pick for a team. It goes back to that whole like, picking teams in grade school stuff. Like, no one wants to be picked last. No one wants to be,
it would
left out.
totally like I've already talked like fine detail about this with a few people in like offline. And one of the things that we talked about was that, and how I was thinking about doing it is you enter your name like a lottery system.
Mhm.
And then we just lottery out the people to everybody. And then the team will pick the captain amongst themselves. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm assigning a captain to pick people. We're not doing that. It's like if you want to be a part of this whole thing, well, it'll be an online more probably. But that was just one idea I threw out there for
Oh,
that.
no,
And
it's not a bad idea. I guess my point was just more of a people always tend to be a little bit emotional about these kind of things, and there's always politics involved. It can be awkward for everyone involved. Now, maybe you've got a great solution for getting around that. That's awesome. I love that you're putting the thought into it. I love that you're seeing, the things that can go wrong. Um, I don't mean to sound like I'm being negative at all. That's how my head works. I look at like what are the problems with this idea, and that's the first thing that I dive on.
yeah,
And
I love
it's not
hearing
that I'm
your
trying to be negative.
perspective
I
with that.
see where things can go wrong, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to steer you away from that.
Yeah, no,
Not the idea, just away from any
yeah.
potential problems.
Right. No, and that's great. And I love that input. I do. I tried one different type of competition before.
Hmm.
About a year and a half ago I tried to run a competition where it was a little different. It wasn't tournament style or anything.
Yeah,
It was like a monthly type of thing and people like lost interest real fast. I was like,
it definitely, and we see that all the time. And I think like I think right now I can think of off the top of my head like Show Me What You Bought over at I Build Robots is got competitions going on right now that I think are team based. I don't know how they're going at the moment. I have to apologize. I'm in their Discord, but I'm not really following along too closely for it because literally don't have time right now. And I know that Berserker Mex tries to do similar competitions every couple of months, and people dropping out or losing interest is a very regular part of any kind of online competition that happens all the time. Life gets in the way, people get burnt out. It happens. There's no avoiding it. You just kind of have to account for a certain percentage of people who start anything are not going to finish it. It never fails.
all right, I got to run this commercial real quick, and then
Gotcha.
we can get right back to talking. Hey, everybody, head on over to ClarksvilleHobbyDepot.com and use that discount code WebCOfficial. That's WebC with a dash between the B and the C, just like you see it on the screen, for a discount of 10% off a purchase of $25 or more. Head on over there right now. You think you can use my code, plus we're also doing a store-wide sale until the 8th, Sunday night. So head on over there, take advantage of that. It's a 4th of July and store anniversary sale. So head on over there. There's all sorts of great deals and discounts. That's ClarksvilleHobbyDepot.com. And tell them I sent you by using the code WebCOfficial. All right. And yeah, um, there we go. We're back. It's just that simple. Yeah, I just fell into this sponsorship, and it's just a great little shout out that I give to the club, type of thing. So, and yeah, they're so great though. They're to be honest, they give you your products in such great fashion, bubble wrapped. I was just like, I was shocked the first time I ordered. I was like, bubble wrap, sweet. I know my stuff's not going to be broke, because those UPS guys, they like to kick the packages.
My local postal service is an absolute nightmare. I have to warn people every time. It's like if you're going to send me anything, you have got to assume that it's going to be handled by like a Rottweiler drunk. It's going to be smashed, gotten wet, whatever. It never fails.
All right, and we have reached the last question on my list, and that is, what do you do outside of the hobby world to occupy yourself for fun? We know you go to work, and we know you have a family, but what is your other fun thing to do?
Hmm. Um, Not too much lately. I've been a certified scuba diver since I was 12. I've got a wild series of stories related to work in different places. Um, but as far as like hobbies outside of the Gunpla community, it's building, and I spend a normal amount of time testing paint and procedures and trying to figure out what works best and what I can get away with on my models. So that's a lot of my time. I do a fair bit of gaming, console and PC gaming. Uh, I read a good bit, but watch anime, read some manga, that kind of stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary for nerd hobbies, I guess, other than the fact that I'm somewhat well known on TikTok.
All right, that's great. Well, I want to, before we get out of here or do anything else, I'd like to double back and thank you for answering all these ridiculously easy to answer questions.
No
And
problem.
had it, as well. Thank you for coming on and hanging out with me. You could have said no, and that's it would have been just fine. Like, I'd have still been your friend. I'd have been like, yeah, I know my podcast, or whatever. But thank you
No, man,
so much,
it's
and I
not a
appreciate
problem.
it. And yeah, other than that, so we're at free talk point and stuff. And since you like Star Wars so much, I'll show you my friend. This is an XJ3 Stealth.
Okay.
So these models come white.
Uh-huh.
So I had to
These
paint
go
it. And
a series of grays, like almost like stealth colors.
yeah, so I took gray. I started off with gray lacquer and just laid that down like a light gray, and then I took Tamiya panel liner, and I used Tamiya panel liner as my wash. And I know that's dangerous, right? But
It
at
can
the
be.
time,
I mean, you've painted it. At that point, you're fine.
yeah. So I felt like I was like, hey, it's got lacquer on it. We should be good, right?
Yeah.
So it hasn't crumbled or anything yet, and I don't really play with it a whole lot. So, but yeah, and then it's I use silver paints, dry brush with silvers, just cheapo silvers, nothing expensive. Did that, and then more wash on top of the silvers to make them look weathered to match the kit. And then there was just a couple spots where I put red, I think, just because the XJ3 Stealth has this weird red band around the cockpit, and then instead of blue glowing lights, they use a Tibion X fuel source, which glows a light red or a dark maroon. So that's what I actually painted on the inside, is like a dark red. So I don't know. I'm a Star Wars nerd like that, I guess. I really like that Star Wars book series, and I'm that's the only like politics I like to get into, is why they didn't make that series. Because they didn't want to make a lot of money. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's
There
something
were,
you can't do. Like,
there were a lot of really well done stories in the EU that they kind of
they were.
just tossed to the side when Disney bought the franchise, and it's been very disappointing. They keep teasing us every now and then with like little hints that one of the writers may have looked at some of this material, or someone just kicked him a footnote and said, "Hey, include this."
Well, we're getting a lot of Easter eggs from the EU inside of the canon, and it's
Right.
just the way they're putting them is not.
I think the problem is that I don't think it's the writers that are coming up with those. I literally think that somebody in the story team is just kind of saying, "Hey, just put this little nugget in there. A few of the EU people go wild, and that's all it takes." And that's really all they're giving us.
Yeah. The most recent one would have to be the light whip, right? That's the most recent EU Easter egg in the Acolyte that they just came out with. There's a light whip.
Assuming they don't think it's their own original idea, sure.
Oh, the media is already on top of telling them that that's not original. Like, the fans are already like, this was so and so and such and such. They were just like right on top of it. They were like, yeah, one of the Dark Sisters or whatever, she uses a light whip. And I've read too much. Read too much. My favorite series is definitely the whole entire section of Jason and Jaina Solo. I love from childhood till the very end. I love it all. Everything in
Yeah.
between. But
There's
then
some good stuff in there. My kid, actually, I had a whole collection of those. Was it Young Jedi Knights or something like that?
yeah, that was a good series. I read
Pretty
them
good
when I was a kid. Yep. So, but then the series came out after that, Fate of the Jedi or something like that. A series came out later where it was like this apprentice of Luke Skywalker's ended up, or Luke and his son ended up freeing some vampire, some Jedi vampire named Abeloth, and they spent like their whole life trying to kill this thing after they had let it loose or something. It was pretty good series, but it was like it involved like Luke's kid and him meeting the Sith world or going to the Sith world, and like he becomes like boyfriend and girlfriend with like this princess of the Sith world or something, and they go off and fight Abeloth or something. Their story is crazy. I loved it. It was great. But then, like 100 some odd years later in the storyline, Luke sends one of a clone of somebody in to fight like Abeloth in the Maw or something. He's like, you got to go in there. You got to take her out because she keeps coming out. So I remember that book series too, and that was a good one as well. I don't know. Did you read those ones?
I don't think I read that one. I'm aware of a lot of the storyline stuff just because I watched like plot summaries on YouTube years later. I think and I'm trying to remember what the name of the book was or the series was even, but I remember there was one that kept my imagination for a while where there was Luke had some revelation where like he'd almost died and he had some different connection with the Force all of a sudden, and he ended up getting on the Millennium Falcon and they got involved in a firefight, and Luke basically just kind of took over the controls of the Millennium Falcon and was flying it in ways like that had never even occurred to Han Solo, just like like flipping it end over end and then like reverse thrusting to change direction really fast, just goofy stuff like that. And it was interesting to read. I cannot even remember which book that was from. I've read way too many Star Wars books.
Oh, your mom's in the shower. Give me a little bit. That's Littles, everybody. She's getting big, isn't she? She models too. She builds Gunpla and everything too. She's kind of one of the things that helped me stay motivated in Gundam. She really likes the models I build. But then as she got old enough to start nipping and stuff herself, she now builds her own Gundams and stuff. And she has her own shelf and everything with all her kits and stuff. She's really awesome. And working on a kit right now for the past 8 months.
My oldest is actually the same way. He's 10 and he's won at IPMS and he won at Building on the Bay a couple of years ago for the juniors category. And I showed him how to build his first kit, which was just like an SD Exia. And he's built a couple others since then. And he's very just like hands off dad. He's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, all right, you got this. Go ahead.
Yeah, her first kits were SDs as well. She got an SD Wing Zero. And then during the time that the alternate armors or alternate universes were happening, where like they would mash up like a Gundam with like a different religious branching or something, like either from China or Egypt or something like that. When they were doing all that, my kid found a Gundam Nataku and a Gundam Death Sight that had like really cool clear plastic parts that came off of each Gundam, and so she fell in love with those. She got those, and she built all that. She has the motorcycle, the SD, the black and green motorcycle, and the new Gundam to go with it. She built all that stuff super quick, done. So she's pretty awesome, and she's my youngest. She's 12. She just turned 13. She was 12.
Okay.
Been less than a week. So, yeah. So that's where we're at. It's so awesome. Kids are so fun. I think they're really fun. I am so behind on this competition build for Plastic Addicts. It's the online Discord build that I'm working on right now. I'm so behind on it. I finally got to painting parts though. And I picked up today. I picked up the mesh or whatever I need to do because I'm going to be doing some special painting. My dad's a Harley Davidson builder, and when he used to paint gas tanks and stuff, he used to do this thing called lace. He would take like fishnet or lace, and he would lay it over the gas tank, and you would spray a different color over it, and it would create like this really cool pattern. Well, I was reminded of like I think I can use lace or a lacing pattern to make like the Gundam look like he's wearing jean material all over the Gundam. So that's the only concept I'm telling anybody about. Everything else is a secret, but that's the only thing I want it to look like. I want you to know, like I'm trying for this technique, and it's first time. So in a competition, you always try something new that you've never done. So that's my new never done. I'm trying this paint technique. I really hope it works.
Yeah. Well, my suggestion would be find a way to stabilize it so you're not like shifting it as you're spraying your different colors. But I was going to say that I've actually got, I'm kind of fortunate. I've got another really talented builder in my immediate vicinity here. And he's shown me some of his stuff. And he also does this thing where he gets like fishnets and lace and stuff like that, and uses that basically to create like camo patterns on Gunpla, and it looks really cool. But it's definitely like, how much do you want to stretch this particular material? How do you want to lay it down? Are you going to want to be like, shooting it from different angles, or do you just want it consistent? He's lots of different ways he does it. And it's very awesome to watch.
Yeah. Somebody taught me how to. I think it was like Barbatos Rex taught me. In a video, he showed us how to take dryer fabric sheets and stretch them out in a certain way and lay them over for marble.
Yeah. I see a lot of people doing that now, and I'm just like, I
Yeah,
guess it makes
that's
sense
why I don't do it.
on some things, but I think it's kind of overused.
It's good to have in your repertoire of skills, but yeah, I do. I'm right there with you. I feel like it is a bit overused, so I don't use it. I know about it though, but that's where I was thinking, like,
don't get me wrong, it's cool.
good to know those things.
I've seen there's a builder that I'm aware of who I think that's like his whole shtick now. He does that all the time, and I'm like, man, you got to try something different.
There's been a few of them. Yeah, just be careful. JJ bites. Tell her to be careful. The cat bites. She's like, can I give the cat and the dog treats? Yeah, but be careful. The cat bites, not the dog. The cat. So, Ryan Sama said a while back that local shops are fantastic, and you're right. You're right, Ryan Sama. Local shops are fantastic. However, once in a while, your local shop just doesn't always have what you're looking for. So having a couple online options is a good thing too. Other places that I know are good places to go are like Mecha Warehouse and Gundam Country. Those are both great online websites. It's just I'm paired up and partnered with Clarksville Hobby Depot, and they're a great mom and pop shop. They're local. They have a brick and mortar in Clarksville, and I just met them before they opened up their brick and mortar. They were pretty awesome. So that's how I linked up with them. So I like local shops too. We got this really cool local shop here in Minneapolis called Hub Hobby Center, and that place is really cool. They're like one of the only places in the Twin Cities area that still sells Playmobil. And I don't know if you were a kid and played with Playmobil when you were a kid, but it was like a lot of that stuff that you saw on Gumby was Playmobil.
Mm-hmm.
So we when I was a kid, my grandma would always buy me Playmobil instead of Lego or Lincoln Log or anything like that. It was kind of cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? I do have some questions for you.
Go
well,
ahead and ask your question. I'll hit you at the end.
So when I'm doing LED lighting of any kind, I've seen that there's some people out there that have set up like these things where like when you flip a switch, the lights do a certain kind of flicker or a blink or a strobe. Is there like is it a resistor or is it a board or a chip that I don't have that's doing it?
There's two ways to accomplish that. One is you actually have a chipset, which is something like it's basically like a small Arduino. That you would have a chipset that runs in it that's programmable. So you could say, okay, we want this circuit to come on and blink every 0.2 seconds, or we want this to come on and pulse 3 times and then sit for 5 seconds and then pulse 2 times, and just any kind of programming cycle. You're going to need an actual Arduino style processor that's got something programmable in it. And then if you're talking about something that just blinks or pulses on a set pattern all the time, then you're just looking at what it would be like a chip that you would leave in the line. I've got a few of them in the Gundam hangar that I've got, where I've got like parts that it's just an alternating circuit where there's just like the lights are either on here or they're on here, and they just go back and forth. I've got a few parts in there that just do like a slow pulse. And it's slightly larger than a resistor. It's going to be bigger than your LED most of the time, but it's just one more component that you would just put in line. Again, use the same. I always recommend using the same voltage across all your LEDs, and then just regulating that power with resistors.
That's you were talking with me about regulating with resistors like a week ago, I think,
Yeah,
on a live,
it's been a couple weeks. I made a video for it.
right? And so, yeah, I was just that's the only other question that like we didn't have time to answer the other night was I wanted to know more about those boards to create those programmed lighting sequences and stuff like that. So
So
that's more what I
you
want to learn.
you shout out your resource. Clarksdale is obviously your sponsor. I'm not sponsored by anybody, but I get to talk about the companies that I use and that I have,
Feel
that have
free.
fantastic customer service with. My biggest one by far is Evan Designs.
Yeah,
They're a US-based company. They answer their own phones. They have very knowledgeable staff, and like you can throw an idea at them and they can come back and say, if you want to do that, this is how I would do it, and they can show you a wiring diagram and go through it with you and show you what all the parts are and how you'd have to put them together. um, and they do a fantastic job of doing that, and they sell a lot of the things that you're talking about. They have something that looks like, it'll be like a series of LEDs with a little control board that looks like, simulates like lightning flashes. They got one that looks like a welding torch going off. They've got like, police lights where they, alternate back and forth and switch colors every couple of seconds. They have all kinds of stuff, in addition to just out of the box generic, here's an LED, what size, what color do you need, kind of thing.
yeah.
Um, they do sell their own circuitry as well. But if you want to get into the more advanced, like you can get some that are like driven by a small Arduino control board that can have like a Bluetooth chip on it, and you can control it via your phone if you want to do that. I've seen a lot of people do that lately, and you
Okay.
can order those online. But I haven't used them yet, so I'm not going to try to send anybody to a particular resource for those.
All right. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I'm really new to that side of the modeling stuff is all
Yeah.
lighting and electrical. I'm so new to that. It's where
It,
I'm willing to learn everything.
that's a very deep rabbit hole. You can get way
Yeah,
down in there.
yeah, I spent a lot of money on the first project. So that's why I was like I made sure I learned while I was spending that money. I was like, yes, I'm gonna make sure I know what I'm doing. And so I knew what I was getting into. I didn't really know what I was getting into. You know what I mean? Like I had done all that research that you're saying everybody should do. And
Mhm.
then I was like, all right, I think I've grasped it. And then nope. I did get some help. My father-in-law, he does scale, like Ryan was just saying, model railroading has tons of resources too. My father-in-law, he told me where to get my first computer board that would power all my LEDs for me at once. And so I used that. And I had some issues with multicolors and stuff, and that's where I was asking you about the resistors and stuff. Is like, where should they be placed? Does each light get their own? Do they work in a series? All that stuff. I was like asking all those questions because that's what I was having the most problems with on that board. And no, the way you do it looks just so much simpler. It just seems like battery, plug, turn it on. I was like,
Yeah,
what?
most LEDs have the complicated way to do it and the very simple way to do it.
Yeah,
And if you can do it the easy way, it's far less wiring to have to worry about. It's a lot more
yes,
manageable. You just have to have a little bit of understanding as to it. It's like playing something on a guitar. You can play the same series of notes three different ways depending on what frets you're holding. There's lots of alternate ways of doing it. You can make it as complicated or as easy as you want to.
makes total sense. All right, it is 53 minutes into the show, so don't want to forget to shout out that sponsor one more time.
Okay.
So head on over to ClarksvilleHobbyDepot.com and use that discount code WebCOfficial for a 10% or a 10% off $25 or more purchase. And hey, I just want to point that out. If you use that 10% on a $250 order, that's like free shipping, guys. So head on over there and check that out. ClarksvilleHobbyDepot.com. Tell them WebC sent you. All right, that's it. Super awesome. And other than that, though, like I'll always ask you questions, like I'll be like, hey, check out what I'm working on, and I'll show you and stuff. Because then you can be like, oh, hey, are you doing it this way? And I'll be like, no, is that way easier? And then you'll be like, yeah, do it that way. And I'll be like, okay, give me a minute, and I'll figure it out. So that's really cool. Anybody else got anything else to add? Ryan Sama, you still in there? Thank you for hanging out with us for the show. Yeah.
I'm always glad. I'm always glad when I can help somebody figure out what they're stuck on, or show them a simpler way to do what they're already doing. It's just that's what I'm really in this hobby for at this point. I'm not trying to set any new personal records. I'm not trying to. I don't feel like I'm going to be taking any massive leaps in technique or skill anytime soon. So at this point, I'm just trying to take what I've got, and if people are interested in learning how to do what I do, I want to show them. That's my goal.
Yep. It helps advance the hobby. Makes it so
And in case
everybody
some people
happy.
take that the wrong way, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, there is definitely that group that they're what I call them the I have a name for it. It's not mean or anything. It's just their factory settings. They like things factory
Factory
settings.
default. Yeah,
Yes,
default
there are
setting.
those people, and there's a lot of them in the hobby world where they're like,
There are, and
no,
that's fine. But I'm
yes,
always going to look at that as that's a good starting point.
huh,
And if all you want to do is build just to have snap built assembled models, that's fine. But if you want to do anything that you might feel a little bit more pride in, maybe learn some alternate techniques, learn some ways of making your models really stand out. That's what I'm here for. There's plenty of people who can tell you how to take off nubs and polish up a surface, and even just panel line stuff. Not all of them teach you how to do it the right way, but at least they're trying. So there's nothing wrong with that.
right. Ryan Sama said this was a fun show. Prime's like a wise monk, wisdom to pass on.
I think so, I guess. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, and then yeah, I don't know. Have you seen any of my builds that you got questions on how I accomplished that or anything?
I've
No.
no offense to the audience. I've seen a lot of what WebC's shown over the last few months. I usually leave comments and suggestions and things like that. I think I'm mostly supportive. Hopefully, I don't come off as somebody who's like, "Oh, you're doing it wrong."
No.
Um, but no, I love that you go to competitions and you take that extra step to try to elevate your own work to the point that you can show somebody something that's totally unique in your own. I personally love any time I see that. It means that you've reached a certain point in your growth as a model builder, that you're willing to take chances and try new things, and that's a huge part of development and growth.
Yay. That's always my strive. I've always been that way, really. Like from the first model till now, I've just let's do it a little better. Let's work on it a little bit more. Let's
Mhm.
next time I build this kit, I'm gonna do this instead of that because that didn't look that great, or So, and I've done that too. I've already started doing that. I was like, the first time I built the Sinanju Stein narrative, I was like, the next time I build it, I'm gonna do it metallic. And instead of doing it metallic, I ended up doing it chrome. I was like, yeah, let's go chrome. Just skip the metallic part and just go straight for the extra. And it was some good practice. Some of those panels of chrome look really nice. Some of them have some orange peel on them. That's experience that I learned from that. But it was my first kit where I chromed the whole thing. So there's a lot of time and practice and patience, and I don't want to do that ever again. I'm probably gonna just to say, okay, I've got better. Like there's that level of a little bit better than this, but I don't know. I really like that Chrome Sinanju. I show off with so much pride. That's my prideful kit, just so you know. Until I build an Otaku Master Grade, my prideful kit's gonna be my high grade Sinanju Chrome, I think, or my Master Grade High New Gundam with all my LEDs that look awful. I like the pattern I chose for where I put the LEDs in that thing, but I still feel like I don't like all the wires that come out of the back end of that thing.
Well,
Because that's the
I can't tell you that I can't say that you've done that wrong, because I've got mine sitting over here on my shelf taunting me. It hasn't been built yet, so at
okay.
some point I might break it out and say, "Oh, you could put it here, you could put it there." There's different ways you can do it, but I'll figure it out when I get to it. I
Mhm.
can't. I I'm
I
always hesitant to give build advice on any kit that I haven't personally done, and I've got a lot of kits that I haven't personally done yet. So
Yeah. So when I did the wiring for that high new, I wired everything into the inner frame, not the panels.
Right.
So it comes through the inner frame and then goes into the panel, and whatever the hole is where I put in the panel, that's where the
Mhm.
wire comes out. But yeah, everything is stuck in, or like stuck into like how the Gundam builders would have probably built it. Like, so when it gets up to the leg joint, that's where I had the wire come out, was through the leg joint. So the leg joint can still like bend like this,
Mhm.
bend like this with the
Yep.
wire in the leg joint and everything, so it doesn't get cut. There's a lot of drilling and cutting and carving that you had to do.
So I'll say this, and again, I had experience doing my own LEDs before I got into Gunpla, but the very first Gunpla that I built for myself, I decided I was going to go ahead and put LEDs in it. I was going to paint it. It was a lot I wanted to do. I was just like, this is my chance to show, what I can do with this hobby. So I came out with the Master Grade Barbatos, and I've got LEDs in the kneecaps, in the chest, in the shoulders, in the head, in the backpack, all through that thing. And what I had to do was when I built the inner frame, I was sitting there looking at it and I was sitting there bending it and checking it. And I found that, not just drilling holes is always the solution, but sometimes drilling holes and making like a slot, like a long channel, so that when you bend something, it doesn't cut that wire. Instead, it just lets it slide through that groove that you've made. And that's
Yeah,
that's how I got around, because all my stuff's run through the inner frame as well.
yeah.
Um,
So
so
I,
that was how I had to hide it. Was like, anytime it's going through a joint, it's got to work for the joint at any point of articulation, because I'm not doing a static model.
yeah, that's my this is my high grade high new that I just
Mhm.
finished up this winter, and I put like holographic water slides on it and water slides that don't belong on it, and then I painted it black and blue. I don't know. I thought it looked cool this way.
Those look cool.
And this was just a practice build. This was to get practiced coming into competitions for this spring and summer.
Hmm.
So nothing major. I made some mistakes on here and stuff. So some of my water slides, like, I don't know, they sagged funny. Like, I think I touched them before I top coated them, so they sagged off or something funny. I don't know what happened. And then in the middle of top coating, I noticed it like right after I sprayed the part. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I was like, well, glad it's just practice, because there's a mistake I'll watch for in the future. Is don't touch that. So yeah. Um, and then yeah, because Ryan Sama says the HG High New is a decent build, and I showed him my High New, and he says he loves the black and blue. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And yeah, the High New kits, or the high grade kits, they're great practice, and they're great for kit bashing or whatever, customizing, modding, whatever you want to call it. And I don't like to do real grades a lot. My real grade stick is build it, put it on the shelf. I'm just one of those guys. And then I do like the 1/100 series kits. I like doing new and different things with them, just to practice on new things. Or just some of them I do just like to put together because that's the kit I wanted, like the Wing Zero or the Freedom 2.0. I just wanted those kits. I did not want to change them really at all. So I was just like, here, put them together, top coat them, done. So those are kits that I have like that, and then there's other kits where I've put hundreds of hours into building them and stuff. So that's that's the end result, is you end up putting a lot of time into these kits.
Yeah.
You look at them like they're little friends of yours. Like, hey buddy, how you doing today? We're gonna
Master.
turn you on today. So you get an idea of how I feel about some of my builds and stuff, and the Um, I have tons of other things I do outside of the hobby world. I play Magic the Gathering. I make music. I'm a music producer. I should say I don't use real instruments to produce the music. I do digital music production, and I can simulate anything to sound real. So that's cool. Um, Learning things like that, how to play with all those things on musical equalizers and stuff. And that's where a lot of the audio comes from here at WebC Official. If you're wondering, like, I don't use other people's audio. Most of this stuff is all my own. I've mixed
Yeah,
in.
it doesn't seem to be the same audio from week to week. So I was like, all right, something's going on.
Yeah, I just changed my show opener. It used to be different, and I wanted this new version or whatever. It's been a couple years. Time to update things. This the new logo on the top of the top corner of the screen and stuff. That's all new from like just these past couple months as well. Just updating everything, making everything look a little bit crispier and newer and stuff like that. Not a rebrand of any kind. Just I like change. I like to make things different once in a while. Um, Ryan Sama says, I built my high grade high news similarly for a contest entry. Managed to get third place with it. I posted to on my Insta and Gumpo Gallery. Sweet. I will have to get over there and check it out. You said it's similar to the one I got. That's awesome. I like that. I like that great minds can think alike. All people who build Gumpo have great minds. Yeah. If you build other models, you're cool too, you know.
Okay.
So, a future build that's coming up. What do you got? Not the one you're working on now, because we all know you're working on the rooftop ball. What's a future build you're looking forward to that's coming up that we can look forward to with you?
The only thing more disappointing than the backlog that I have right now, I'm somebody who used to never have a backlog until I started getting bogged down on, doing a ton of detail work on Gundams. Is the pile of stuff that I've got that's like partially completed at the moment. So just looking from here, I've got a master grade Zaku 2 that I did a ton of scribing on to make it look like the resin conversion kits. I've got a gun tank that I'm going to be doing extensive modifications to the head unit on. I've got a heavy arms that I'm giving rotating quad miniguns. Trying to think what else I've got. I've got quite a few high grades that are just sitting around waiting for paint. I've got a whole squad of Zaku's that are ready to go. So I've got like the Zaku Blaze Phantom, the Zaku Gunner, what's the other one that I've got sitting over here? The Ifrit. I've got a ton of stuff. I've got a Jagan that's sitting there waiting for paint. I'm backed up on my paintwork right now. So I've got a ton of stuff that's built or mostly built that just needs me to strip the models down, paint them up, and put them back together again. So, and I've got a few that are going to need modifications. As far as something coming, I don't know. Those are the big ones. I'm trying to convince myself to finish up the builds that I've started. I've also got the high grade Nightingale that's technically done at this point. Just again needs some scribing and is going to need some paint.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of projects that are partially finished. I've done some of the hard work that I can do where I can sit there, and I tend to hop on streams a lot of times on TikTok, and I just record myself sitting there working on clipping out parts, removing nubs, maybe doing some scribing or some detail work, stuff like that. And that's mostly because I can't stream while I'm painting. It doesn't work. There's no good way to show painting in a spray booth. No one would watch it. No offense to anyone who thinks that's cool.
No,
it just doesn't work.
I've only done a few, and that's just to show people that I really am painting them. Like, because sometimes people are like, you didn't paint that, So that's the only time. Like, but I think I've done like 3 videos, and the last video setup I did with painting, I was like just doing like hey, this is how I take care of my gun or my sprayer. This is how I manage everything in my air booth. This is where I put my painted parts, and this is how I clean. This is what I use to clean, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's like what I was trying to do with the video. And then I was like, all right, and then we're going to show me painting and then breaking it all back down. And then that's what I did is I painted, broke it all down and everything. So that's like why I was trying to do it. But there's a lot of people who are super nervous to get into airbrush. And one of the reasons why is because, well, when you look at YouTubes of people trying to teach you how to airbrush, there's one thing that's said in almost every airbrushing video that everybody always overlooks. This is how I do it. You might have to do it differently, or it might not work the same for you, or, everybody's different. Those are things that we all got to figure out what's going to work for our setting. Like, I've never been able to be helpful for someone else really, except for like
Well,
maybe
the problem there is there's so many variables when it comes to airbrushing, things that people don't consider that are going to make a dramatic change in how you have to do this. So if you're like, are you doing, are you spraying enamels? Are you spraying lacquers? Are you spraying acrylics? Those are all treated completely differently than each other. You know, from what you have to do for personal protection to what you have to do to clean up after the fact, to what products you're going to use for thinner, for for flow improving, all those things. What compressor, what type of compressor are you using? Are you using canned air? Are you using like a small hobby compressor? Do you have a large compressor that's got like pressure control and moisture trap? Things like that are all going to make a big deal.
What's your humidity like?
Yeah, humidity, temperature, there are so many goofy things that like even air pressure. People don't always consider that, but it's like your elevation makes a big difference. Your humidity makes a huge difference. If you work like I do, where you've invested enough in this hobby that you can work indoors in a climate controlled environment, a lot of those factors go out the window, because then you're just like, okay, you control the temperature, you can control the humidity. You still have to account for elevation, but at least then you've got some of those factors that are going to be locked in and constant. Whereas like 1 week you can go out there and paint a part, and you can go back out the following week and paint it again and get two completely different results for things that you don't really have control over, other than just waiting for the ideal conditions. The biggest thing that I always have to stress to people is, make sure that you're taking proper precaution. Use gloves, use a respirator if you're going to be doing anything other than acrylics, and even then you should probably have some form of mask on. But the big one is not just clean your airbrush, but know how to completely field strip and clean thoroughly every part of your airbrush before you ever put paint into it. Is a huge one. I see people all the time like, I started getting into airbrushing and now I can't get air pressure through my airbrush anymore. It's like 90% probability you've got paint stuck in there. I already cleaned it. I was like, I'm telling you, you've got paint in there. It's either in the tip or it's, back in the baffles. You've got paint in there somewhere and you don't know how to clean it out. You have to learn this before you start running paint through there. And that's a huge thing.
They make all sorts of fun little tools for your airbrush for you to get in there and get that stuff clean too.
The guy that I was telling you about earlier, who does like uses lace and fishnet stockings to make camo patterns, he has a huge collection of airbrushes, like I think 8 to 10 airbrushes. Almost all of them he bought used off of like Facebook Marketplace by people who are just like, yeah, this airbrush doesn't work, and he went over and bought it, and it's like, so what's wrong with it? There was paint in it, and they just didn't clean it out. And he, for like $10 now, he's got like a $150 airbrush that he cleaned it, and that works. So.
I want to go do that. No, I'm gonna go start looking for.
Watch you, man. Look for it. That's a big part of my hobby, and Ryan will tell you. It's like I have display cases for my Gunpla because, when I got into this hobby, I had very small children, and I have cats and I have dogs. And cats in particular are like the bane of a Gunpla collector's. They'll knock shit off all the time. So I was like, I have to be able to put these away where the animals can't get to them. So I went out and bought a bunch of display cases, and I have never purchased anything directly from IKEA or anywhere else. I always buy these like secondhand from from shops that are closing down, or from military people who are moving out of the area and have display cases they've suddenly got to get rid of. If you just keep your eye on like online marketplaces for used goods, particularly cases, if you need those or model supplies, you can find great deals if you know when and where to look.
Ryan Sama says Barbatos Rex is a great resource. Yeah, he is a great resource for a lot of understanding. He saves everybody a lot of money because he does all those paint tests videos and stuff. I just watched his Odin can video, which was like an hour and 2 minutes long. It's a great video. You learn a lot about Odin can, and I think that might be my next set of paints after I burn through this set of G paint that I have.
My only complaint about Barbatos Rex is he makes me want to go out and buy stuff all the time, and I understand that's what he's doing is showing all these other products off. But man, I have to limit how many of his videos I can watch unless there's something specific that I need an answer to. I try not to watch every video he puts out just because it makes me want to buy more stuff.
Right. Yep. That I had the same problem when I first started work, or when I first started learning about airbrush, and I watched his videos. I was like, "Ooh, I should use this paint," or "Ooh, I should use that paint." And I was like, I took a step back, and I was like, maybe I should wait. Maybe I should find something else that maybe fits what I need, And then I came across, the G Paint product. I'm sure you use G Paint too. I think, right?
Don't. No, I don't.
You don't? Oh,
I
okay.
don't. No.
I thought
I,
you or
I
somebody else does. Somebody
I
in
I very heavily use like alclads for my metallics, particularly like the inner frames and
those are
mechanical
really
parts.
great.
And I use Mr. Color for all the
Okay.
armor plating. So those are the two big ones I use. I use other products, but those are the main two.
Yeah, I use Createx and G Paint. Those are my two products that I use right now.
Yeah.
And Createx okay. You gotta play around with all the additives and stuff and learn that stuff. But once you learn it, it's pretty easy to go. It's just grab and go after that. Um, and G Paint is grab and go. You don't have to learn anything. Just pour and spray. Um, but somebody once told me G Paint is a lot like Odin can. And so I went and looked up Odin Can here recently because G Paint's off the market now. You're not really going to find anything of that brand anymore.
Right.
And poor, I know the whole story behind all that. I was in direct contact with
Take the money and run.
yeah, yeah. So I knew what was going on, and it just sucked. It was all dumb all the way around. Some people think it was a money split, and some people realized that he was just made an example, so all the other companies that was doing the same thing as him didn't do it anymore, and that's what happened. Um, all stuff ended up in customs, and customs seized it all because he didn't declare the taxation on it. And everybody else who was doing that said, "Oh, I better stop doing that so I don't get in trouble." So all the other companies saw that they made an example out of him with like almost $1 million worth of product. So yeah, that's what happened. I don't think it was taking the money and run, but type of thing necessarily. I think it was just they made an example out of that guy.
All
It
right,
would
that's fair
could
enough.
have happened to anybody else.
I don't have any first party sources on that. So if
Yep,
you know better than I do, I will defer
yep,
to you.
yep. I had a speaking relationship with Justin from Studio
Okay.
Gundam, so that's where I come from off of it. I'm not making excuses for the guy. I don't
Yeah,
support those types of business
that sounds like a
practices.
very plausible excuse. You know, it's like
Yep. So,
the government wants their taxes, and if they find out that you're doing anything to circumvent that, they're very likely to come down on you harshly. So
yes, they are. Yes, they
it could
are.
easily have been a competitor look at him and just kind of whispering to somebody, in the agency's ears, like, "Hey, this
Yeah,
guy's not doing, business
yep,
above board."
yep,
That's all it takes.
definitely. Yep. So yeah, but I watched how everybody's business practices changed really fast after he got busted.
Mhm.
So that's where I was like, everybody's going, haha, and they're going, we're changing our practices, and now shipping costs more.
Yep.
And that's what happened. So I was like, all right, whatever, is what it is. So we're paying the declaration on the shipping. Cool. Gotcha. So that was fun. That was a great year. Last year was great for everybody, right? Did you end up getting your MGEX? I did. No. Just joking, just joking. It took me a whole nother year to get it though. Like I didn't get it with anybody's shipment. So I had to wait for the second print cycle. But I'm happy I got it. And then yeah, I don't know. So I'm thinking of switching to Odin Can because yeah, the paint I like is going away. And I don't foresee it coming back anytime soon. So I'm not going to hold my hopes up, and I'll be switching up to Odin Can. And I hope I can find a decent supply. Or I hope I'll just go look and see what my sponsor has too. I don't know if my sponsor has for paints right now. I know he carries a line of paint, and it's a good line. I don't have that line right now or yet. So things to look at. And then yeah, I don't know. But we've been here for almost an hour and a half. I don't
Okay.
want to hold on to you too much longer.
Okay.
Thank you for coming and hanging out with us, and you have a great day,
Well,
great night.
if you're
We'll
gonna
see
if
you.
you're gonna cut the podcast here, I do have to say that something that I've been working on a personal project along with some guys over in Mobile is we are doing Building on the Bay, which is a large-scale model competition in Mobile next Saturday.
Exciting.
This project's been in the works for quite a while. It's Building on the Bay, Mobile, Alabama, July 13th. It's at Gamers and Geeks for anybody who's interested. The easiest way to get the information is just to hop on Facebook and search for the event there. Just look for like Building on the Bay 2024. You should find it right away. And it's going to be Gundam. It's going to be sci-fi. It's going to be wargaming. There's a large number of prizes that are up for grabs. There are some products that I'll just say were given to us by a very generous benefactor to give away at this is just promotional stuff. In addition to the prizes that we have for each category. So we have, we have out of box kits, we have, painted kits, and we have the masters category, which means there's an interesting opportunity there. The way we have it set up this year is anyone who has previously won Best in Show. So things like Hobbytown competitions, IPMS, GBWC, or any other large scale model competition. If you have ever won Best in Show, you're automatically entered into the Masters category, which means you are competing only against other people who have won Best in Show. Now, that might seem a little odd to some people, but what that does is that opens up the entire remainder of the categories for people who have never won Best in Show. So we're absolutely trying to make sure that we're going to have some new blood come in here and, win the Gunpla categories, win the sci-fi categories, because they don't have to compete against the guys who have already come in here and like curb stomped the competition in years prior. So what we're looking at this year is the big prize that we have to announce is the best in Gunpla category. The best overall Gunpla is going to be the high grade Neo Zeong narrative version, which, if you're aware of that kit, that's quite a pricey kit these days, and we're giving that away to whoever has the best Gunpla the best Gundam at this competition. There's a number of master grades that are up for grabs. There's SDs, there's high grades. There's some fairly rare stuff in that prize pool as well. But the big one is that we've got people who are very much passionate about this hobby who want to put on a competition primarily for Gunpla builders, because they weren't always satisfied with the way that IPMS did their judging. So we have our own rule set that borrows heavily from the Gunpla guys over in California, using a lot of the same criteria that they have, which isn't a one-to-one comparison with what IPMS puts on for their competitions. So it's categorized in a way that a lot of people are going to win. There's a good breakdown of skill levels, and basically what I'm trying to stress to people is there's a lot of opportunity for people who've never gone to competition before to come in and potentially win some really nice stuff. And I hope to see a lot of the local builders there. I know that we got people who are going to be coming in from Louisiana, from North Alabama, from Mississippi, from Florida, possibly some guys coming down from Georgia. And anybody, it's open to everybody to come and view it. It's absolutely free admission to come and look. There is an admission fee if you're going to be entering. It is going to be cash only because we're not setting up a credit card machine for this. But all the details are in the Facebook group. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on either TikTok or Instagram and just, ask away. We're just over a week from this show. So that's what I've got. Oh,
Quick question. Is this going to become an annual show?
So it was originally going to be an annual show. We started this 2 years ago. We had to skip over last year because the primary person who was responsible for putting on the show had a family medical emergency that basically sidelined him for almost a full year. So we weren't trying to do this without the individual. So when he was ready, we just said, yes, we're going to bring it back. Here's what we're going to do. And we're going big this year. I've got a lot of people that I want to thank, and I'll be thanking them at the event. But per their instructions, I cannot say who they are on social media. So yeah,
That's cool. Totally cool. I totally understand that. And yeah, competitions are always fun. I love to host competitions and be in competitions. So I've hosted a few. I used to be an admin for a Facebook group known as Kip Ash Gundam, and we used to hold every season a different kind of competition. While I was the admin, we had a fall build off, winter build off, spring build off, and we had like special holidays too. Like we did Halloween, and I think we did like 4th of July build off as well. We did a whole bunch of those things, and so it's pretty fun to host. Online criteria is way different than in-person pageantry style criteria.
absolutely.
So definitely different stuff. And that's a really cool picture you got going on back there of that great big Zaku.
This is the poster that we've got. This is actually one of my Zakus. One of the guys from Mobile came out and photographed this for the poster that we ended up making. So there's a lot of promotional material out there, but yeah, we're really hoping to have a good turnout this year. Like I said, we got a lot of free stuff for anyone who's coming down. General admission's free. You get like 3 entries with your paid admission.
Come on. I'm trying. No, you can keep talking. I'm trying to get the screen to fix itself. Hold on.
If you're trying to show what I've got on screen, maybe you might be better to just pull it up online yourself. I don't really have a way of sending you the file.
There we go. That's better.
One way to do it.
Yep. So now it just sounds like I'm the voice of some disembodied spirit, and you're still Leviathan Prime. So it's okay.
The entire time, we'll never know. You're an AI. I have no idea.
Yeah. So I like the poster though. It's really cool.
Thanks.
And there's a QR code. I like that QR code. I bet you could scan it right here from your phone.
You probably could, but it's a lot easier to just go find it on Facebook. So
yeah,
that's my advice for everybody. I didn't think to try to figure out some way to get you photos of the promotional material ahead of time. So that's my slip
Oh,
up.
that's cool. It's all right. We'll get better in the future. We'll all get better in the future. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know. I'm tired. I've been up all day on the road. I got home just in time to do this podcast. Like I ate dinner, I scarfed dinner, and then we sat down and did this podcast. So, so yeah. Everybody have a great night. Thank you again, Leviathan Prime, for coming and hanging out with us this Friday, and we will see everybody